Shalom Israel. First homes, we give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, by Shem, Yahushua, by Shem Rakakadash, double as the apostles, and all great most of teach us his truth. Peace and blessing to afflicted Israel, and Shalom. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father in ancient Hebrew. Bahashem means the name, and Yahushua is the name of the only begotten Son. And back in the lesson, and today, going to be going to the war in heaven, pursuing back to Revelation chapter 12, verse 7. Going to go into how the devil's kingdom is going to come to an end pretty soon. But you're starting to see more chariots are starting to show up. You're seeing tons of prophecy being, played out and being fulfilled. So this is also major end time signs, and pretty much showing you that this kingdom is coming to an end. I'm going to place a quick news article, go into the chariots and how they're disarming ICBM or nuclear missiles, and pretty much that. Let's get into it.
Ooh, another UFO segment. That's crazy. You'd have to be crazy to believe that's possible. Really? Is it any crazier than what's coming out of, say, your average White House briefing? No, it really isn't. So with that in mind, a fascinating conference today about UFOs and nuclear weapons that took place in Washington. At it, a U.S. Air Force captain called David Shindeli said he was part of an incident in which a UFO disabled 10 nuclear ICBM missiles. Here's part of what he said.
There has been a long history of UFO incidents and encounters, with much investigation of them from 1947 and even earlier. In September of 1966, I was the Minuteman ICBM Launch Control Officer and Deputy Commander of a launch crew stationed at Minot Air Force Base, North Dakota. I was involved in a UFO incident at that,
which I believe was also like a recent, chariot, basically disarming a missile that was getting shot into the sky. Which I think it's an old video. I haven't seen it in a while, but there's more proof right there.
Time, where a flying object tampered with and took down a total of 10 nuclear-tipped ICBM missiles by rendering them unlaunchable.
Tom Rogan is one of the rare serious journalists, actual journalists, in Washington who's been on this story for years in a very rigorous way. He's a columnist now with the Washington Examiner. He was following the conference today. He joins us tonight for a recap. Tom, thanks a lot for coming on. So what did you learn today at this event?
Thanks, Tucker. Yeah, I think the key point here is that although these gentlemen have been telling their stories for a while, now they are doing it in a fashion where they can finally be taken seriously by more people. And fortunately, there weren't that many journalists there today, but there were more perhaps than there have been. I think the key point, though, is that people with some of the highest security clearances at the height of the Cold War for the US Air Force, multiple different individuals at multiple different sites across a period of decades, say that UFOs interacted with nuclear weapons platforms and either rendered them inoperable or took them offline. And so something was done by a technological force, as these officers would suggest, that cannot be explained. And that in and of itself surely should be big news worthy of serious further investigation.
And they have reason to fear these chariots. Because ultimately, what's coming to redeem the elect of the nation of Israel and to help destroy this place. So yeah, you should be afraid, and you should fear Yahweh Shema Shai, man, because this is just a taste, a little sprinkle of Yahweh Shema Shai has in store for these devils, man. That's just a show of, a little bit of power right there, man, to disable your thermonuclear missiles to nothing. But let's get to the scriptures. It's going to be a short lesson. Let's get into it. Book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 7. It says, and there was a war in heaven, which, in the sky, the atmosphere. It says, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, which is going to Esau, Edom. And the dragon fought his angels, which the angels are going, to his troops. Now I'll get to verse 8 after these other scriptures I get. 2 Ezra, chapter 13, verse 2 through 11. To describe the chariot that Yahushua is coming back on, and how he's going to help destroy this place. Or, right here. And lo, there arose a wind from the sea that it moved all the waves thereof. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven, which are going to the angels. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. Verse 4. And whenever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, which are, going to see those laser beams that are going to be shot out of those chariots. It's like as the earth faileth, when it filleth the fire. Verse 5. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven, to subdue the men that came out of the sea. So Yahushua is going to come back in the midst of World War III, and you're going to have all these different nations that were fighting amongst each other to basically come together and try to subdue and take out Yahushua. Just like how you have these alien movies, the UFO movies, where, for example, Independence Day, where they had, everyone come together to try to take out the common enemy. And Yahweh Shemashah put that, for humanity spirit in them to want to fight and to join together, Because you have these people, shook and afraid, man. But, hey, Lord's going to put that spirit on to fight. And this is describing the chariot Yahushua is coming back on. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain. And we looked at images of a great mountain. It's huge, man. And flew upon it. But I have seen the region or place whereout the hill is graven, and I cannot. So we can see the beginning nor the end of it. So it just describes just how large and gigantic the chariot the Yahushua is coming back on, man. And that they haven't seen nothing yet, man. People were already bugging out, freaking out from seeing, chariots in the sky. Just imagine when you see, thousands, man. Especially when Yahushua comes back on the fathership. Verse 8. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid. Going back to what I was saying, how they're going to be shook and afraid to go against Yahushua. And yet durst to fight. The Lord's going to put that spirit on them to fight, that for humanity spirit, Verse 9 said, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. Verse 10, but only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempest, which are going to use laser beams from those chariots. As you see in in these alien movies that they like to push out, shooting laser beams, and that one recent Nike commercial where I had chariots shooting people. Continue on. The last verse says, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire and the flaming breath and a great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which had prepared to fight and burn them up every one. So upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude, nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. So these devils are going to get destroyed, man. They're going to stand no chance. And I believe a few months ago they came out with a news article talking about how they're 1,000+ years behind in terms of technology, man. So these devils are going to be a walk in the park. When I saw this, I was afraid. So let's continue on. Let's just get the verse 8, and then I'll continue on the book of Matthew. This is Revelation chapter 12, verse 8. It says, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. Which is not literally going to Satan. It's going to Esau, Edom, falling out of power, that estate that he was in. And prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So it is written that these devils will lose. The book of Matthew chapter 10, verse 34. It says, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. So you have a lot of these Christians, there's a lot of people out here telling you, Yahushua loves everyone. He's come back to save everyone. He's give hugs and kisses. The Lord doesn't hate. But guess what? Yahushua is coming to slay, man. Think not that I came to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. So hey, Yahushua is coming to slay, man. He's coming angry. But the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 2, says, when they see it, they should be troubled with terrible fear. These people are going to be shook and afraid when they see Yahushua return. And, with the multitude of heaven, these chariots, man. And shall be amazed at the strangeness of salvation so far beyond all they looked for. So they're going to be in awe and they're going to be afraid, man. But you see the last two scriptures, and I'll close out. It's going to be a short lesson, quick hit. Book of Psalms, chapter 68, verse 17, to go into the multitude. The chariots of the Most High are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in sign at the holy place. So there's a multitude, and Yahushua is going to come back, with the multitude of heaven, man. These devils understand no chance. I mean, just look at the reaction of the people and how these devils are reacting when they see just a few chariots, man. That's going to be nothing compared to when Yahushua returns. And that's also a major end time sign also. You're seeing more, chariot sightings than we've ever seen, man. Luke chapter 21, verse 28. Let's come again and close out. It says, when these things begin to come to pass, then look up your heads for your redemption. Draweth nigh, our salvation is nearer than we believe, man. We're seeing tons of prophecy playing out and being fulfilled before our very eyes. And it just goes to show these devils are on the last legs, man. Seeing sedition among men, upward people in the world, earthquakes, plagues, pestilence, the Lord is sending out upon this earth. His places do, man. These devils are written to lose. But pretty much hit the main point of the lesson. Don't want to beat the dead horse. But pretty much want to go into the one heaven and how these devils will stand no chance. Actually, you have these chariots disabling and messing with these thermonuclear missiles, disarming them. So hey, these devils are in trouble, man. And pretty much hit the point. Lord's edifying lesson. I'll close out when I give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh Bashem Hashai, Bashem Kakadash, the Lord of the apostles, and also great Muslim teach us the truth. Peace and blessing to all Israel, and Shalom.